So today I want to start with an idiom, sitting on the fence. Hands up if you've heard the expression, sitting on the fence. Keep your hands up if you know what an idiom is. Yeah, most of you, some of you. So at your age, maybe a couple of years younger, I was sitting in a classroom waiting to do a writing competition. Much like the one that you're going to have today, it was starting with a prompt and then we had 45 minutes to write. So we sat in the class and they gave us the idiom, sitting on the fence. Immediately, I had an image of myself sitting on a fence. I could see a farm, countryside Australia, outback, sitting on a fence. This image dominated my thoughts, and I went on to write a story about me literally sitting on a fence. About a week later, we were back in the classroom with the teacher discussing the idiom, sitting on the fence. And as they started talking about it, I realized I had completely misunderstood. Everyone had talked about the expression, the non-literal idea of being undecided, and I had written a story about sitting on a fence. I was embarrassed, I felt stupid, I wanted to hide, and I thought, oh my God, I've done it wrong. The teacher then went on to talk about this one student who dared to write a story different, who dared to look at it from an entirely new perspective and write a completely creative piece of writing on sitting on a fence. So in the end, I won the writing competition, even though I had completely misunderstood. So why am I telling you this? Because there is no right or wrong in storytelling. There is no right or wrong in creative writing. Yes, there's spelling mistakes. Yes, there's correct ways to do grammar, but the story is up to you. So if we go back to the beginning, when I was about 10 years old, I loved writing. I didn't consider myself a writer. I didn't even think of it. I just always had a notebook and was always handwriting. By my teenage years, I was kind of that girl that felt very lost and confused at school. I was popular, I had friends, I was very sporty. Something was always wrong, but I could never put my finger on it and I didn't know what to do. So as a teenager, I started journaling. I journaled and made hundreds of books of just writing out my thoughts and how I was feeling. And that journal became my friend, my confidant. It helped me understand myself. Today, as an adult and as a therapist, I've actually honed those skills in journaling, and now I use those skills into writing therapy, which I teach. So writing therapy has an incredible amount of tools that can help you with expression, with understanding yourself, with going through your thoughts and emotions, handling arguments, processing everything that's going on in the mind. So how did I do all of this? I didn't put any pressure on my writing. I didn't put pressure on myself. I wrote because I wanted to. I wrote sometimes because I needed to. I wrote for myself without worrying about who might read it. So I guess I've always been a writer, but I've never really considered myself that way. Even after publishing articles, publishing short stories, I was even paid to travel and write. Even after publishing my first 2 books, I still didn't consider myself a writer. For me, that was mostly because the 2 books were self-help books, one for adults and one for teenagers. And I considered them an extension of my therapy work rather than an author. But it was my 3rd book. My 3rd book last year, where I would be introduced on stage, on television, on podcasts as author of Hip Hop and Hope. The word author made me realize for the first time after 3 books that actually I was a writer. I was an author. Even still, at the heart of it, I consider myself a storyteller. We're all storytellers, just finding a way to connect to ourselves and to others. That's what writing is: expression and connection. So before your writing competition, I would like to share with you 5 pieces of advice that helped me with my writing. The first one, we call it head, heart, and gut. We think about, do I write from my head? Do I write from my heart? Do I write from my gut? Do I write because I'm thinking? Do I write because I'm feeling? Or do I write from my intuition? Writing from these different 3 places, you will write 3 different stories depending on which one you're writing. Today, what I would encourage you to do is to try and get out of the head, write from your heart, and write from your gut, write from your body. This is where all the truth lies. The second piece of advice I would say, don't edit whilst you're writing. Okay? Editing brings you back into the mind, and the mind is critical. The mind's job is to be critical. I say that as an author and as a therapist. When we want to edit something, we want to critique it. We want to look for mistakes. But if we're creating and we're writing and we start looking for mistakes at the same time, we're going to start editing out our own voice. So we really want to leave the mind, the critique, the critical part of the brain for later. So today, see if you can write your piece, and once you're done, hopefully you have enough time, then you can go back and edit. Then you go back and you check for spelling mistakes, check for grammar, things like that. The third piece of advice, there's the macro lens and the micro lens. So macro being bird's eye view as if you're a drone, and micro lens being up close and personal. For example, if you were to write about being stuck in peak hour traffic in the old city during school pickup hour, the macro lens would be there's complete chaos, there's gridlock, there's so many cars all over the streets. The micro lens coming in close would be I can smell the sweat from the person in the car next to me. I can see the sweat trickling down from the motorbike next to me. I can hear the conversation of the tourists in the tuk-tuk by my side. So we've come up close and we can see what's going on. We can use our 5 senses of what can I see, hear, smell, touch, feel. Okay, so we want to look at macro and micro. The fourth piece of advice, don't be afraid to be vulnerable. Don't think about who's going to read the story. Don't think about your teachers whilst you're writing. Think about yourself, write for yourself. And the best kind of writing always comes out when you're writing it for you. And the last piece of advice, don't overthink it. Let it go, shake it out, don't overthink it. You're already a storyteller. All you need to do is tell your story. Thank you.